Hello. So this is your second town hall in the last couple of days, and I wanted to, reflect on the fact that both of those have taken place in the house of Christ. And as we all know, Christ was a very welcoming, he was a very merciful person. And part of the reasons he was that merciful was because he was born into a people that were persecuted greatly. It was very easy for Christ to be crucified based on the laws of the land at the time. We would agree on that. I think everyone would agree on that. Everyone who's read their Bible would agree on that. And the reason I talk about this, I talk about mercy and laws of land that persecute people. We have a crisis at the border right now. And by any stretch of the imagination, anyone who's been indoctrinated in the ways of the church, in the teachings of the church, in the mercy of the church, would look at these images and say, this is not Christ-like. Now, I know it is the Republican Party line to say that everything that we're seeing on TV is wrong, is wrong. I'm getting to the question in a second. But here's the thing. We had a young man who is an American citizen who was detained by ICE for a couple of weeks. He's come out and said he didn't have a shower. He was unwell fed. He came out about 26 pounds lighter than he went in. So when we discuss this in the house of the Lord, in the house of Christ, and we discuss the persecution and everything, can we admit that what is happening at the border, what is tantamount to concentration camps, and this treatment of human beings is not in keeping with the teachings of Christ? And if so, as you support this policy, can you tell us your thought process on advocating an anti-Christian policy toward human beings?
Well, first off, you know that you and I disagree on this issue.
We disagree on being merciful to human beings because we follow Christ.
I think we are. The Customs and Border Protection is doing the job that they have been asked to do by the United States Congress. They have been funded and resourced by the United States Congress. And the Department of Health and Human Services is doing the job that they have been tasked to do by the United States Congress. And look, arguments go back and forth, but for heaven's sakes, we're having the Democratic debates on night after night on television. Tell us the plan. Tell us the legislation that you're proposing. We've got a lot of Democrats who complain about this. I have not seen anyone forthcoming with any legislation. So, do I believe that we have a sovereign right to define and defend our borders? You bet I do. Do I think the safety and security of our citizens is something that I am sworn to protect? Yes, I do. When you have 120,000 people saying across the border,
I want to clarify something right now because you actually deflected a second ago. You actually talked about the Border Patrol and the people who are actually doing their job. And you said that it is the job that they're actually doing what's being asked of them of Congress, which means that they're being asked what you're asking them to do. Or are they doing the job that the president's being asked, is asking them to do? So they are federal laws. But what you're saying is, then who takes responsibility for that? Because you've been there for 13 years. All right. You didn't answer the question, though. One last thing. Does the treatment of the people at the border, adhere to your vision of what Christ would approve of as you're doing his work?
It's a tough job.
That's not answering the question.
Good men and women doing that job. They're doing the job that Congress sent them there to do. They didn't want to be under-resourced at the end of the month of May, but that was Congress's responsibility. We almost went home for a vacation on the 4th of July without providing them the emergency supplemental that they needed. That was the problem then. It was entirely within the purview of the United States Congress to fix that problem.
And once again, I'll step away, but you've not answered the question on whether or not Christ would approve of what your party is advocating for. Thank you.
Christ wouldn't approve of.
Christ would not approve of. Thank you. He would?